Hey TPT sellers, I am super excited with the new TPT seller dashboard. I know a lot of us don't love that the TPT seller dashboard doesn't update live with the earnings, but I think overall there are more pros than cons. In this video, I'm going to go over some ideas that might be controversial, but maybe the new TPT seller dashboard is better than we think. My name is Mike Fuchigami. I'm the host of the SEOTpreneur YouTube community. Here are 4 things that I like about the new TPT seller dashboard. I'm going to talk about how the earnings aren't live. I'm going to talk about how we can see percentage change, whether we're doing better or worse. I'm going to talk about the custom comparison feature, and I'm going to talk about how the TPT dashboard now makes TPT land a little bit more fair for everybody. Before we get into the meat of the episode, I just wanted to say, we did it! We hit 4,000 watch hours in the last 365 days, which means the channel can now get monetized. Hitting 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours couldn't have been possible without you. I feel honored to have this YouTube community, which is a little bit different, I think, from the status quo in TPT land. Now, let's be realistic. The actual revenue of the channel will be pennies, maybe quarters, but eventually, if we save up, we'll be able to reinvest into the business and grow the SEOTpreneur platform so that we can provide you with information that you're just not getting from other TPT sources. A while ago, I promised that if we got 4,000 watch hours, then I would publish this ABCD tool, which is a Google Sheet tool that lets us take 3 different product stat files and figure out whether the change we made in our TPT store before and after actually made a difference. It lets us compare the product preview rate and the wish list rate and the conversion rate so that we're not just guessing anymore. That way we know that if we change something, do we see numbers that prove that this was actually getting better? And that's the key. In TPT land, you have people like me who say things like, change your covers, do this, try that. But we're talking to everyone, and it may not specifically apply to you. So using data to see whether that change in your product preview made a difference, well, now we can say, yeah, I got a 5% increase in sales. And because of that, I'm going to spend time and update all my products like this. Well, the new seller dashboard on TPT lets us make these kinds of statements like, yeah, I see a 10% increase in my sales once I changed my product covers, or once I started using this keyword tool, or once I changed my product descriptions from super long to super short. We no longer have to be influenced by trends and what's popular. We can figure out what actually works for us in our TPT stores. The new seller dashboard on TPT is really designed to help sellers like you and me figure out if the changes we made actually increase revenue. This episode is for TPT tadpoles, TPT hamsters, TPT hawks. And I say that because the TPT seller dashboard is free and it's accessible to everybody. Now remember, change is hard. I'm a creature of repetition. I like things when they are the same, so I get it. But what if we were to play devil's advocate and started with the premise that, you know what, this TPT seller dashboard is the best thing ever? Could we find evidence to support that idea? And then afterwards, in the comments, let me know why you disagree, because I'm clearly missing something. And the first point is that most people seem to be unhappy that the earnings are no longer live. This is what the TPT seller dashboard looks like on Friday, June 28th, 2024. And it says here, data is renewed twice a day. Well, to be honest, I kind of love this sentence because this is TPT trying to be a little bit more transparent. The page views in the past were only updated a couple of times per day. The only difference is TPT is now making that more obvious, and now the earnings only get updated twice a day. Right now. I bet you enough TPT sellers will be complaining about this that TPT will make it go back to live. Is that possible? Yeah, I think so, because the earnings data is stored on TPT's databases. I mean, they are probably submitting that information to Google Analytics 4. It's probably just easier to pull it up from their own sales database. And so I think in the past, that's what they did. The earnings part of this seller dashboard was fueled by the data in the sales reports, which is updated immediately after someone makes a purchase. But the product statistics page, things like page views, previews, Those things are tracked by Google Analytics. And this information is only pulled down twice a day. They have a cron job that's separated by 12 hours. Could they pull the information down from Google Analytics more often than twice a day? Of course they could. But every time they contact Google Analytics to pull down the information, that takes up server resources. Imagine you had to go into the dashboard and download your product stats CSV twice a day. And now someone asks you to download it, once an hour. And then someone said, hey, can you download it once a minute? Think about how tired you would be just constantly downloading that file. So that's what we're asking. Personally, I would rather them have the server resources spent on the front of the website, the side showing to teacher buyers, than to the back end, which is showing TPT sellers. Because if you have a slow website on the front end, the teacher buyers are going to bounce away. Whereas if you have a slower updating system on the back end, the TPT sellers will complain, but we'll still stay here because we want to make money. So then it makes me wonder, well, why could this actually be a good thing? What if we were just to try to come up with that point of view? Actually, only updating it twice a day is the best thing ever. How often do you actually check your phone or check the website to see how your store is doing? And remember, from this dashboard, the only data that was updating live were the earnings, and I suppose units sold. Conversion, views, that would have been pulled in from Google Analytics 3, Universal Analytics, and that only happened a couple of times a day. So by making it consistent with both earnings and page views, I think the system is a little bit less confusing. We know that the earnings is only updated twice per day, and now we know that the page views are only updated twice per day. When I first started on TPT, I used to have my Google Data Studio dashboard, and I used to use Google Sheets, and I used to download my statistics daily. And then my business coach pointed out, why do you do that daily? Are you making decisions and changing what you do the moment you get that feedback? And the answer is no. So the time I spent downloading the data didn't actually transfer it into me taking action. So then the question is, well, how often do you make decisions based on your earnings or based on your data? And that's a trap. Because you could spend all day looking at data, and if you take no action, then that data was worthless. It didn't actually improve your store. Likewise, we can never look at the data and just go with our gut, and that's probably not ideal either. So if we look at our earnings once or twice a day, can you let me know in the comments what the earnings actually tells you, aside from feeling good about yourself? So every time that ka-ching sounds, it's a little bit of a dopamine hit. I mean, we're all motivated to work on our stores when we are doing well, when the money is coming in. But I think it's kind of like a sugar high. The ka-chings are great because they boost your dopamine, but what happens when there are no sales and it's quiet? Well, that's kind of like a hit to your ego. Maybe, what if only looking at the data once a day and thinking about how things went yesterday to prepare for today's work? What if this makes us a little bit more even keeled instead of going up and down with the excitement of sales? Don't get me wrong, I like looking at my phone to see how much money I've made that day. But then, if you're like me, how often have you looked at your phone and looked at the notifications and felt a little bit down that there were no TPT sales? So aside from the dopamine hit from knowing instant feedback that you've made a sale and being able to check on your TPT app or TPT dashboard exactly how much you've made that day, aside from the feelings and the emotion and the sugar high part, how does that information help you to make business decisions for your store? And no matter what the answer is, I guess my question is that decision-making process made better if you had a live up-to-date number of how much money you've made that day? And I would argue no. It's mostly just for motivation when our store is doing well, and it's a little bit of a kick when you're down because the lack of sales is sometimes hard. One of my favorite things in the new TPT dashboard is the fact that they make it very clear how well you are doing compared to last week or the same time last year. I'm going to change it to week to date, and the comparison period is previous year, and I can see this week so far, I've made $67, and the same time last year, I made $180. I am down 62%. So now I have a score. If I'm trying to do my personal best, by tracking this percentage difference, I can see whether my actions right now are improving my store. How am I doing month to date? Well, compared to last year, this entire month, I'm down 43%. Does it make sense for me to compare to the previous period? Probably not, because in May, teachers are still teaching. In June, teachers are not. So I'm down 43% compared to May. Obviously, I'm trying to increase every month, but for me, I think I like to compare it to the previous year. because the previous year is a benchmark for how my store is doing. And compared to last year, I need to change things. Well, which products do I need to change? I can just click on my entire store here. I'm going to deselect everything. And I just want to look at my number one resource, my reading strategy resource. And I can see this month, I'm down 62% compared to last year. So that means compared to my store, which was down around 40%, this resource is down disproportionately more. And I need to figure out why. I have some ideas, and I love that people have emailed me with ideas as well. So thank you so much. It's kind of cool. For those of us who find that comparison period overwhelming, no problem. We can just turn it off. And then I notice this tiny little updated sign. So I have one resource selected, and I can see that the system knows I updated it today, June 28th, and the total I've made since the update is $19.99. My favorite part of the new TPT Seller Dashboard is we can now compare custom time periods. I have a product management tool. It's TPT Seller Tip number 13. And although you could spend $20 for this resource, if you get the Ultimate Bundle, once you buy the Ultimate Bundle, you get all of my new TPT Seller resources for free because this is a growing bundle. But I'm using this product management tool to keep track of the resources I'm changing. So I'm going through my reading bundle and I'm doing a product brochure style preview PDF. And if I look at the dates here, I can see I started around Thursday, June 13th, and my latest change was on June 21st. So what I can do is I can set a custom comparison time. Let's say I want to see if my change is making a difference. I'm going to set the date range from June 21st, which is when I finished making my change, to today, June 28th. So that's a week of data. And I'm going to change the comparison period to the previous period. It's now comparing June 21st to June 28th, which is what I asked it to do, 7 days after the 21st, and it's comparing it with 7 days before the 21st, so June 20th to June 13th. And I can see in my entire store, nothing seems to have changed really. It's around the same amount. But now I'm going to very quickly deselect all my resources, and I'm just going to choose the resources that I updated during this product preview glow up. So I'm just going to search up all my passages and I'm going to select all. I can see I have 22 resources selected. I'm going to look up all my reading strategies by typing strategy, and I'm going to select my reading strategies here. So that looks about right. I've updated around 29 resources. And now when I'm comparing the resources I actually fixed, well, since the time that I fixed it, I made $43. And before that, I made $100. Has this helped? No, it's actually gone in the other direction. How are my page views doing? If I click on page views, my page views are down, but my page views should be down as the weeks go by because we're entering summer vacation. I love how there's this icon, new data source, and that's showing up on the page view screen because the way that the page views are calculated is completely different in Google Analytics 4 than it was in the previous version. Watch this video to find out why I think our conversion rates are going to drop every time we visit the page. Each visit and each refresh of the page counts as another page view. Unfortunately, I can't see previews in here, and that's one thing that I wish TPT would add. But overall, I can see my conversion rate. And I can see my conversion rate has gone down a little bit as well. Is this a big amount, 14%? The numbers are too small to say. So I might have to wait another week to see whether this glow up has made a difference, or maybe a month. But this piece here, the comparison period with the previous period, this is a game changer. We don't need confusing Google Sheet tools to try to figure out if the change actually worked. Google Sheets is confusing. There's a learning curve to figure out how it works. And the ABCD tool only works if we downloaded our product.csv on specific dates. Whereas the new TPT Seller Dashboard is connected to the TPT database. We don't have to download any of our products.csv files. If you write down the dates that you changed the title or you changed your product preview, then you can go and compare a month after that change and a month before that change to see if that change actually made a difference. And now we can all do this. And I think IXL and TPT have made the TPT seller space more fair and more equitable for all TPT sellers. You don't have to be rich and you don't have to be super good with Google Sheets. You just have to get used to what this comparison tool does. Leave a comment below if you want me to make a slower walkthrough in how to use that tool. And my response to you is going to be, okay, I'll do that. I'll do that if you leave comments, but you have to write down on a piece of paper the day that you change a resource. Why do I think the new TPT seller dashboard makes everything a little bit more fair. A few months ago, I did a video about whether or not I should be excluded from the TPT seller community, as some TPT sellers wanted. Back in October 2023, it was masterclass number 5, and it was a deep dive into why TPT needs a free seller tool. And the point is to advocate for better free data analysis tools from TPT and IXL Learning. In that video, I talked about what is fair. I showed the classic image of how sometimes equal distribution of resources isn't actually fair because we don't have equal opportunities of outcome because everyone is starting at a different point. A more equitable solution would be to give people the resources they need to be able to have an equal opportunity for the same outcome. But of course, we know in reality, some people have more advantages than others. And so in this classic image, something transformative might be to remove the fence entirely so that everyone can see the game. So continuing the baseball metaphor, in October 23, the current TPT dashboard is kind of like that fence. Knowing what to improve is being able to see the baseball game. And sure, TPT provided everyone with the opportunity to download a CSV file for data. But of course, the challenge is that the person in the purple shirt has no idea how to use that CSV tool. And the question is always who benefits and who is at a disadvantage. There are some very expensive data tools on the market. I published the free seller tool, which was a free Google Sheet tool to help us make sense of the CSV data. But even if I publish that free tool, not everyone is going to be able to use Google Sheets. I know this based on feedback I've received from email about how some TPT sellers had a bad taste in their mouth because extra training for the TPT tools beyond the YouTube videos was not free. With the old TPT seller dashboard, we have a situation where some people are able to see the game and understand what to improve based on the data, but we still have purple shirt on the left here who's not able to understand the CSV data. They can't use data to compare before and after they make a change to see if that improved anything. And the question is, well, what if IXL improved the TPT seller dashboard so that we could all figure out whether or not a change we made in our store has improved the numbers? And that's exactly what TPT has done here by allowing us to set a date range and then to compare to that previous period. So if you set a date range for 38 days, the previous period will be the 38 days before that starting date. If you set a time period of 10 days, then the previous period is 10 days before the starting date. TPT has made it so that everyone is able to do this. We don't need to pay for expensive data tools. We don't need to use confusing data tools. We just need to understand how to use this comparison period feature in the TPT seller dashboard. Does this mean that there's no need for expensive data tools or confusing Google Sheet tools? No, 100% no, because that's the beauty of innovation and change. Now the question is, well, what is this data tool that TPT is providing missing? What would make it even better? And if third-party tools can figure out how to answer that question, then we can create a business model to help ease TPT seller pain. The pendulum swings. If I raised a perspective that maybe you hadn't considered, please like the video. And if you can help me to understand what I'm missing, please leave a comment below so we can have a dialogue. Let me know what you think of the new TPT seller dashboard, and I'll see you on Sunday where I reveal the next secret from the TPT SEO manual. Bye-bye now.